body, and bitter. Words you should never use to describe a woman, but are perfectly acceptable in the world of a sommelier. Welcome to Viticulture. Viticulture is a worker placement game for 1 to 6 players from Stonemaier. Players take on the roles of owners of vineyards, trying to grow grapes, turn them into wine, and fulfill orders. Will you make wines that would be the envy of the Bordeaux in France, or will you be left with sour grapes? Let's find out in Viticulture. Place the game board in the center of the table within reach of all players. Place the lira and glass grape and wine markers near the board. Each player will choose a color and take the corresponding tokens. Each player places their rooster token above the wake-up chart, their cork token on the start space of the victory point track, and their wine bottle on the middle of the residual payment tracker. Each player will receive a vineyard mat and 3 different field cards. Place the field cards with the field side up on the top of the vineyard mat. Take all of the rooster tokens, shake them up in your hand, and randomly draw one to determine the first player. Give them the grape token. Shuffle the Mama and Papa cards together and deal 1 face-up to each player. These will determine your starting resources. Every Mama will give you 2 regular workers, and every Papa will give you a grande worker. You can discard your Mama and Papa card once you retrieve your resources. Shuffle each of the 4 decks and place them on their corresponding colored spot at the top of the board. Now you are ready to play. Viticulture is played over a series of rounds, in this case, years. Each year has 4 seasons: spring, summer, fall, and winter. Each season has a different set of either setup actions or board actions. A few things before we get started. During the seasons, players will place workers. These workers can only be placed once a year, which means workers placed in the summer cannot be placed in the winter. The number of spaces that can be occupied at a location depends on the number of players in the game. In a 2-player game, only the first space can be used. In a 3 to 4-player game, the first 2 spaces can be used. And in a 5 to 6-player game, all 3 spaces can be used. The action spaces can be claimed in any order. If you place your worker at a location, you must take that action. However, the bonuses at the location are optional. Grande workers may be placed on a fully occupied space. Lastly, the gain space, located at the bottom of the board, can be used in both summer and winter. During the spring season, the first player will place their rooster on the wake-up chart in any space they want. Then, continuing clockwise, the rest of the players will place their roosters. This determines the order of play for the rest of the year. When you place the rooster, you also take the bonus associated with that time. If you go first, you do not get a bonus. Second draws a vine card. Third draws a wine order card. Fourth gains a lira. Fifth draws a summer or winter visitor card. 6th gains a victory point, and 7th gains a temporary worker for the year. During the summer season, players will take turns placing their workers in the summer section or the yellow section. Players can play visitor cards, draw vine cards, give tours, build structures, sell grapes, and plant vines. If you place your worker at this location, you can play a summer visitor card from your hand. Once the action has been resolved, place it face up in the discard pile. The bonus here lets you play an extra visitor card. If you place your worker here, you can draw a vine card from the vine deck at the top of the board. You will need vine cards to plant and harvest to make the wine. The bonus here lets you draw another vine card. If you place your worker here, you will gain 2 lira. The bonus gives you an additional lira. This location allows you to build a structure on your vineyard mat. Each location on your mat has a cost associated with it. Pay that cost and place the corresponding token on the location to represent that it is built. The bonus here will give you a lira. Let's take a closer look at the structures and their bonuses. The trellis and irrigation are needed to plant vines. The yoke lets you uproot a vine or harvest a field. The tasting room gives you a victory point once per year when you give a tour. The windmill will give you a victory point once per year when you plant a vine. The cottage lets you draw an extra summer or winter visitor card during the fall. Finally, the medium and large cellars let you house more expensive wines. If you place your worker here, you can sell a grape or buy or sell a field. The bonus gives you a victory point. Finally, this location lets you plant a vine from your hand. The bonus will let you plant an extra vine. In order to plant a vine, you must have the required structures, if any, and an open space in your fields. To plant a vine, place the card in one of the 3 fields at the top of your player mat. Fields cannot exceed its max value, either 5, 6, or 7, when totaling the value of the vines. For example, I could not place this card here because the total value would be more than 5, but I can place it in the 6th field. When a player is finished placing workers in the summer phase, they can pass by sliding their rooster from one side of the wake-up track to the other. Once you have passed, you cannot take another turn this season. Once everyone has passed, move on to the fall. During the fall season, players will each get to take either a summer visitor or winter visitor card. If you have the cottage, you will get to take 2 cards. You do not play these cards when you get them. When everyone has taken their cards, move on to the winter season. During the winter season, players will take turns placing workers in the winter section, or purple section. Players can play winter visitor cards, draw a wine order card, harvest a field, make wine tokens, train a worker, or complete wine orders. When you place a worker at this location, you can play a winter visitor card from your hand. The bonus here lets you play an extra card. This location will let you draw a wine order card. Wine order cards will give you points for selling the indicated types of wine. The bonus here lets you draw an extra wine order card. When you place a worker here, you can harvest one of your fields. The bonus here will let you harvest 2 fields. Let's take a closer look at your player mat. In order to harvest a field, add up the number of red grapes represented and the number of white grapes represented. In this case, I have 4 red grapes and 1 white grape in this field. Then take the glass grape and wine tokens and place it on the corresponding color and number on your crush pad. This location allows you to turn your grapes on your crush pad into 2 wines. The bonus here will let you make an extra wine. Let's take a closer look at your player mat. To make a wine, you will move the glass grape and wine tokens from the crush pad to the corresponding number and color in the cellar. Some types of wine will ask for red and white grapes to be mixed. For example, I can take this 4 red wine and 1 white wine to make a 5 blush wine. Keep in mind you cannot use the higher numbered wine cellar if you have not built either the medium or large cellar, and you cannot use the large cellar without the medium cellar. If you have not built those, but the wine that you would make would be higher than what you have built, you must place it in the highest number that you can achieve. You cannot split the wine up. This location will allow you to train a worker. Just pay 4 lira to train 1 new worker by placing it on the board next to your other worker. You will not get to play with the new worker this year. The bonus here will give you a lira. Finally, this location is where you can complete your wine order cards. The bonus here will give you a victory point. Let's take another look at your player mat. To complete a wine order card, you must have wine in your cellar equal to or greater than the value represented on the card. For example, for this card, I need 3 red and 1 white. I just happen to have both of these in my cellar, so I can complete this card and get the rewards. This card will give me 2 victory points and move me up 1 on the residual track. Keep in mind you can always give a customer better wine than they asked for, but not a lesser wine. Once all players have placed their workers and resolved the location's actions, it's time to do some year-end cleanup. First, age all of your grapes and wine by sliding the glass marker to the next number on the track. Do this for all of your grapes and wine, unless you have not built the medium or large cellar. If you haven't, and it would go into the next cellar, that wine must stay where it is. Then, return all workers back to their respective players. Collect any residual payment based on the residual tracker. Discard down to 7 cards. Finally, rotate the first player token counterclockwise and remove all rooster tokens from the wake-up chart. The endgame starts when any player reaches or exceeds 20 victory points. When this happens, finish out the current year. Whoever has the most points wins. In the case of a tie, the player with the most lira wins. If there is still a tie, the player with the highest value of wine in their cellar wins. And if there is still a tie, the player with the highest total value of grapes on their crush pad wins. And that's Viticulture. You can watch us play this and many other board games live Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at twitch.tv/boardgamehouse.